Democracy depends on a free press. Please support our independent journalism at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In defiance of local officials, President Trump has deployed the California National Guard to Los Angeles after protests erupted in response to ICE conducting military-style raids in and around the city. This marks the first time since the 1960s a president has deployed the National Guard without a governor's request. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has also placed on high alert 500 Marines at Camp Pendleton. White House advisor Stephen Miller described the ICE protests as an insurrection. On Sunday, Trump warned this could be just the beginning of deploying troops on U.S. streets.
We're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart.
Earlier today, Trump wrote on social media, "Looking really bad in L.A., bring in the troops," unquote. California Governor Gavin Newsom plans to sue the Trump administration today. He wrote, quote, "Commandeering a state's National Guard without consulting the governor of that state is illegal and immoral," unquote. On Sunday, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass decried the ICE raids and the Trump administration response.
What we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration. When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And deploying federalized troops is a dangerous escalation.
Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, has threatened to have Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom arrested if they interfere with federal immigration enforcement. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders said Trump is, quote, "moving this country rapidly into authoritarianism." California State Senator Scott Wiener said, quote, "This is what fascism looks like," unquote. On Sunday, police forces in Los Angeles fired rubber bullets, flashbang grenades, and tear gas at protesters. Police have made at least 27 arrests. Last night, police declared all of downtown Los Angeles an unlawful assembly area. Earlier in the day, officers repeatedly fired rubber bullets at protesters. One hit an Australian journalist as she was reporting from the streets.
After hours of standing off, this situation has now rapidly deteriorated. The LAPD moving horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA.
You just shut the f*** up. You okay?
I gave you...
I'm good.
Are you okay?
Over the past week, federal immigration agents arrested about 118 people in the L.A. region. On Friday, ICE agents also arrested David Huerta, president of the California branch of the SEIU, that's Service Employees International Union. He was charged with obstruction and needed to be treated at the hospital with injuries. He remains in custody. We'll go to Los Angeles after headlines. Israeli Navy commandos have intercepted a boat carrying activists with the Freedom Flotilla Coalition who are attempting to bring humanitarian aid to Gaza. Brazilian activist Thiago Avila issued this warning just before Israeli forces raided the ship, the Madeleine, in international waters about 100 nautical miles from Gaza.
Everyone, we are under attack. Please sound the alarm. They're throwing a lot of substances and objects on us. Quadcopters, the most dangerous ones. Right now, they're jamming our comms. They're saying random stuff just to jam our communication. They're doing this so that we cannot get help.
Those on the ship include Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, who recorded this message before the Israeli raid.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
Israeli forces are now bringing the boat to the Israeli port city of Ashdod. UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese condemned the Israeli raid on the ship. She wrote online, quote, "While Madeleine must be released immediately, every Mediterranean port should send boats with aid, solidarity and humanity to Gaza. They shall sail together. United, they will be unstoppable. Breaking the siege is a legal duty for states and a moral imperative for all of us," she wrote. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. In Gaza, hungry Palestinians are continuing to be shot dead while attempting to get aid. On Sunday, Al Jazeera reported at least 5 people were killed and more than 70 wounded after Israeli forces opened fire near an aid site. More than 130 Palestinians have been killed near aid sites over the past 2 weeks since the launch of the shadowy U.S.-Israeli aid operation. On Sunday, Palestinians gathered in Khan Yunis for the funeral of Khaled Dogma, a father of 5 who was fatally shot while trying to feed his family. This is his aunt, Salwa.
He was going to get food for his children and himself, to make them live, feed them because they don't have a pinch of flour at home. They can't find food to eat. He was going to get aid to sustain his house, to feed them. He was walking there. On his way, he did not reach the distribution site and was shot.
At least 4 people have died in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv as Russia launched a major drone and missile attack on Ukraine's second-largest city. At least 60 people were injured. Meanwhile, Russian forces are moving closer to the northern Ukrainian city of Sumy. A number of nearby villages have already fallen. This all comes days after President Trump compared Russia and Ukraine with children fighting in a park.
Sometimes you see 2 young children fighting like crazy. They hate each other and they're fighting in a park. And you try and pull them apart. They don't want to be pulled. Sometimes you're better off letting them fight for a while and then pulling them apart.
In an interview with ABC News, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded by saying, quote, "We are not kids with Putin at the playground. He's a murderer who came to this park to kill the kids," unquote. President Donald Trump's new travel ban has gone into effect. The impacted countries are Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, and the Republic of Congo, not to be confused with the Democratic Republic of Congo. New travel restrictions have also been placed on 7 additional countries. Critics of the ban include Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, who wrote on social media, quote, "This ban, expanded from Trump's Muslim ban in his first term, will only further isolate us on the world stage," she said. The Trump administration's returned Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States more than 2 months after the Maryland father was wrongfully sent to a maximum security mega prison in El Salvador. But instead of reuniting with his family, Kilmar was brought to a courtroom in Nashville, Tennessee. On Friday, Attorney General Pam Bondi revealed a grand jury has indicted him for allegedly transporting undocumented migrants within the United States. Abrego Garcia's attorney criticized the government's move. Simon Sandoval Moshenberg said, quote, "Due process means the chance to defend yourself before you're punished, not after. This is an abuse of power, not justice," he said. The chief of the criminal division at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Nashville resigned in protest of the indictment. Ben Schrader had worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office for 15 years. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled the Trump administration's so-called Department of Government Efficiency can have access to sensitive records about millions of people held by the Social Security Administration. The court's 3 liberal justices dissented. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson warned the decision, quote, "creates grave privacy risks for millions of Americans," unquote. In a separate ruling, the justices ruled DOJ can keep much of its inner workings secret for now without having to comply to requests filed under the Freedom of Information Act. In another decision, The U.S. Supreme Court's unanimously rejected a $10 billion lawsuit by the Mexican government against U.S. gun manufacturers. Mexico had accused Smith & Wesson, Colt, Glock, and other companies of fueling violence in Mexico by knowingly allowing its guns to be smuggled into the hands of drug cartels. The court ruled gun makers are shielded from liability under U.S. law. In news from Colombia, Senator Miguel Uribe was shot and seriously injured during a campaign rally in Bogotá Saturday. Uribe is a member of the right-wing Democratic Center Party and is running for president in the 2026 election. He's the grandson of the former Colombian president Julio César Turbay Ayala. El Salvador is escalating its crackdown on critics of President Nayib Bukele. On Saturday, Salvadoran police arrested prominent constitutional lawyer Enrique Anaya, who's publicly called Bukele a dictator. His arrest follows the recent detention of Ruth Lopez, an anti-corruption lawyer with the organization Cristasal. Over the weekend, Cristasal warned Anaya's arrest marks a disturbing escalation in the criminalization of those who defend the rule of law in El Salvador, unquote. Pope Leo has openly criticized nationalist political movements. He made the comments on Sunday during Mass at the Vatican.
Where there is love, there is no room for prejudice, for security zones separating us from our neighbors, for the exclusionary mindset that, tragically, we now see emerging also in political nationalisms. Let us invoke the spirit of love and peace, that he may open borders, break down walls, dispel hatred, and help us to live as children of our one Father who is in heaven.
The United Nations Ocean Conference has opened in the southern French city of Nice. Organizers are pushing for the ratification of the High Seas Treaty, which aims to protect 30% of the Earth's land and sea by 2030. The treaty only will go into force after 60 countries ratify the treaty. This is Jan Lorenz of WWF France.
We have witnessed a lot of international conferences that eventually issue a very ambitious text, but with really no teeth. We want a text to have teeth, to be able to really impose constraints and be accompanied with final funding. We need funding. We need money to actually preserve the ocean. We need money to control, we need money to support the people that live out of the ocean, and that's what we want. We're not sure it will happen yet, so that's why we're putting pressure on our government.
And in climate news, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has revealed global carbon dioxide levels exceeded 430 parts per million last month. Researchers say this is the highest amount of CO2 in the Earth's atmosphere in as many as 30 million years, long before humans roamed the planet. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now!'s Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.